I can see if a client has been invoiced or not. Now the way I did this was creating a list. So we'll be using list, we'll be using relationships, and we'll also be using the recurring task. And I'm giving a real life situation on how the workflow works and how I design it. What I want to do is I want to send these clients an invoice for QuickBooks based on the frequency that they're using it. So I have to bill some clients on a monthly basis. I have to bill some clients on an annual basis, some of them on a quarterly basis. And it was working fine in the beginning using QuickBooks and just sending out the reminders, but it got a bit more complicated as I got more clients and as I got more team members working in my bookkeeping agency. So what I did was I want to monitor everything on ClickUp, and I want to see which client has been billed for their subscription and when last were they billed, and I want to find out if there's any overdue billings for that specific client. And the way I did that was I built everything of where I'm at the moment in terms of the monthly pricing, in terms of when importing all that information. So I imported this information, and I'll go through how I imported the information on another video. I don't want to make this video too long. So that's the import. On one click of a button, view mapping, I was able to import this data and give the frequency, give the price per month, and give the last billing date. So by having this information, I was then able to build out a space called the subscription billing. And if you look at the subscription billing, which is the second list we will be on, I'm able to see all the overdue billings. So I get to see all the billings that are overdue, which I'll go through last in this video. And I also get to see on a list view all the items that has been done for the staff members. So I will then create a task called invoice that has been sent out, the date it relates to, and the staff member then can tick off every time they actually completed the task. So in a nutshell, that's what we're going to be doing in this video. I believe this will help clients who's using the relationship field or looking at how they can use it as a use case, or it can help those who are also finding it difficult to keep track if invoices has been sent out to clients based on work performed. What this video is not going to cover, and what I don't want you to have a misconception that you can send out invoices from ClickUp. That's not the intention of this video. The intention of this video is just to show you how you can manage your workflow regarding your financial that you send out to clients in terms of invoices and billings to clients. So cool, let's dive in. The aim is, if you've got two types of departments and you had more information here. So let's just say you had the client's ID number, you had the address, you had the cell phone number, and you maybe had some other information that is quite private. So how this helps you is you keep the private information on this list called the client field, and then on the monthly subscriptions you might have someone that's working in the debtors department and someone collecting the income on your behalf, and they want to view this information. So what will happen then is they will then create, or you as a business owner will then just create a list to show all the invoices that should be invoiced to this customer. And by doing so, I've done this one here called invoice to cloth person. And when I invoice to cloth person, all that the debtors clerk has to see to create this invoice is to understand that the due date is the 30th of April. So this is what it relates to. It relates with the period of end of April. This is what the invoice amount should be like. And they want to know now what frequency is this client billed at. And that's when I created the relationship field, and the relationship field will show that actually on cloth person. So cloth person, there's cloth person. Cloth person has got a monthly frequency, so they know they should actually bill this person every month, and the price per month is 400 Rand. Okay, so can you see I've got cloth person over here, and I've got the client detail relating to no chill peppers. I just want to correct that. To correct this, the way you'll do it is I'll go into the actual task, and can you see it shows cloth person, but it's got relating to the incorrect client. So to do this, I'll just take and cross it out by the cross takes it out, and now I'll relate it to the correct client, which is cloth person. I know, random name, forgive me. So by clicking on add, it automatically chooses the list in my setup, and I'll choose cloth person. So let's choose cloth person, and there it shows monthly, QuickBooks, and 400 Rand. And this is the part that works well with relationships. If you had other client details in your custom fields, like the ID number or the social security number, or maybe you have a monthly retainer package, you don't want everyone in the organization to see the value of what the retainer package is, you then can just select the items which is relevant for the billing clerk. And in this case, this is the only information they need. So I chose this information under the relationships. And that's all they need to view. Now, how did I create? Let's create another one. So I'm going to go to my Excel sheet, and I'm going to say for race car makers, they are paying annually, and the total invoice should be 3360. So how do I do that? I'll say new task. I'll say race car makers. So this is me as a business owner notifying my staff at the back office to remember to create an invoice for this client. And let's just see, the last time that they made a 20th of March was the last time. So if 20th of March is the last time, it means that I have to make one for 2021. So that'll be the 1st of March 2021. That's the due date. They pay at the end of the month. Let's make it the 1st of the month. Let's change it a bit. I'll make it the 1st of the month. So the 1st of the month, this client should make this payment. Correct. And who is this client? So I will then select client details. I'll click on this actual client detail, and then I'll click on add, and then I'll add the client detail, which is race car makers. Happy. It shows me I must bill them annually, which shows a staff member. They must take note, this is the annual billing. And the price I said was 3360. Okay. Now that I've done that, when the following year comes, I don't want to necessarily every time go to my Excel sheet. Look, when was the last time this person was sent an invoice? So now I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to say last time this person was sent an invoice was 2021. So I'm now going to go through and then create a whole new task from scratch. Race car makers 2022 must be billed. No, I can, as a solution, use the recurring task to do this. And the way I'll do that is I'll click into the task, and I'll look for the recurring options, which is under the due date. So under due date, I will say set recurring, and I will recur this forever. So I'll manually then cancel the recurring if it's no more customer, but forever I'll recur this task. And when would I like to recur this task? I'd like to recur this task every year, and I'd like to schedule it on schedule. So every time this thing is scheduled, regardless of whether the task is done, it should be created. And when it does is I will update this task to go to not started, just so for myself I know it was an automatic add. Okay, so it will recur every single year on schedule annually. So on the 1st of March, this will be created, and yeah, I'm going to click on save. So now what happens? I'm able to then see all the items of what was billed to the client or not. When my staff member actually creates the invoice on QuickBooks, they will then make a tick, and they will say tick that they sent the invoice to the client. And that's the next step of the setup I wanted to show is if they do that, I'd like to move it out of not started and out of in progress. So if they sent no chill an invoice and they click on QuickBooks, I'd like it to go to out of this whole thing to show done or complete. So the way I'll do that is I'll use automations for this. Now I try to stay away from staff updating the statuses. So instead of the staff updating in progress to complete, I'll rather have it that if they tick on sent to out on QBO, it automatically does it. So let's go to automations and see how that works. So if I go to automations, I'll say add automation. And I believe this is an automation that you can use across your workspace if you use this type of thinking. Meaning, if a custom field changes, please change the status. That's what we're basically doing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say save. Let's just look for when status changes. No, it's not. We're actually looking when the checkbox. And the checkbox is a custom field. So the custom field, so when custom field changes, and the custom field we're looking for is on QBO. So if a custom field changes to on QBO is checked, that's what we're looking for. What do? What we will say is add an action. Sorry, we'll go to change assignees, and then we won't. We will say change status. So let's see if there's a change status. Type in status. Change status, that's correct. And the status we will change it to is complete. Perfect. So I'm going to say create this automation. Now that I've created this automation, I'm just going to add a description here to say, to know what it's for. So I'm going to say that when invoiced on QBO, this task is complete. I don't have to still look at it because I know the client has been sent an invoice. You can look at my other video. I built an automation database. It's a tip that I got from ClickUp on one of the trainings, and I can actually add a description field here and reference it back to my database. I'll be creating a separate video on that. That just creates order in your workspace if you want to keep control of the automations. So I'm going to say create automation. Invoice cloth person, tick. As soon as I click on the tick, can you see it went complete, and it will show under complete. So let me just refresh this, reload. Great stuff, it's complete. Notice the ones that were unticked did not do it because there was no change. I did the automation afterwards. So let's see if I do it now. If I click on that one now, and I click on race cars was invoiced, and I tick it now it should go to complete. Can you see it changed the status to complete? And if I reload the page, the task will move to complete. So reload. Alright, so these were my custom, remember the reoccurring tasks we created? So can you see the race car makers on the 2022 in March? This is when I will then do this task. Okay, what it didn't do is it didn't take through the client's detail. So I'll just have to add the client's detail, which is race car. So I'll click on client's detail. I'll click on the relationship, which is the race car makers. So that's the only thing it happens with regarding of your recurring tasks. It does not bring into account your relationships. Just take note of that. So I might have a situation where, which is a good thing, because you might have a situation where the price per month changes, and that will affect then the invoice amount over here. All right. What else you can do is you can change this view. So maybe this view doesn't really work for you. You'd like to see it by the actual date field. So you can sort this by date. And now you can see what is the date field of what is due soon compared to what is due later. So the more pressing stuff that's behind is on top, and the bottom stuff is what's in future. I can also change this field, and I can say, because this is really not started, it's not really applicable because it's so far ahead, I can change the status to say future, which means it's not really started. It's not an active status. Okay. Same with no chill invoice for August. Not started. I can put in future. I hope this video helped you. I hope you can see the use case. You can use this in your organization by using the relationship fields, by relating data from one list to another, and not showing all the custom fields to a particular department, and then using the recurring task to set reminders and to set order in your workspace on items that is repetitive. I'm going to continue doing my setup on the next 12 clients, and yeah, I hope this video helped you. So please look out for future content. I plan to do a part 2 on this, using dashboards and how to monitor the bottlenecks. So what I would like to do in future is allocate staff members to this. So who has to actually complete this on QuickBooks and send the invoice to the client. So I can say if it's over a certain value, I can have one individual do it. If it's under 1,000 Rand, I can have another individual do it. That type of automations I like to do. I'd like to show you a view on how I can monitor all the stuff that's not on QuickBooks. And it's maybe a bit late, like maybe a month late or behind. I can then set a reminder with email or some form of dashboard that I can follow up on the staff members to find out what the reason was that the invoice wasn't sent to the client. So those are the type of use cases I'd like to continue on this video going forward. But for now, this is a good place to start using relationships and recurring tasks. Okay, let's do a quick simple view to manage the bottleneck. Yes, we can use dashboards, but for a start, before I make that video, let's just see as a manager, maybe you'd like to see the bottlenecks and how you can do this. I'm going to create a special view for this. So I'm going to take the list, I'm going to duplicate this view by saying copy, and I'm going to rename this bottlenecks. So I'm going to call it bottleneck or overdue. Let's call it overdue. So these are all the overdue billings, okay? Overdue billings. I'm going to print this, okay? Perfect. So these are the overdue billings. So what billings are overdue? An overdue billing would be something that has passed its date of when it should be invoiced and it isn't on QuickBooks. So what are we actually looking at? We're actually looking for all the items over here which is on a checklist which is not ticked. That's what we're actually looking for, those items. So let's filter, and the way we're going to filter this is we're going to look for that checklist, and the checklist is a custom field. So that's the custom field we're looking for, which is a checklist. Let's see what's looking at. I'm looking for on QBL. So I'm looking for this one here, and I'm looking for everything that is not ticked, so not checked. All right. What happens then is I get everything that's not ticked, but that's not really going to help me because some of this stuff aren't overdue. Like the race car makers is only going to be invoiced in 2022. So I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to go to the filter. I'm going to add a filter, and I'm going to say due date is later, no, overdue. So I'm looking for overdue. So everything that's overdue, please filter. And that's the overdue dates. And what I'll do is I'll actually save this. So I'm going to say save and save for everyone. Okay. I'm happy with that. That's real good. So now I can actually pinpoint all clients not being invoiced. Let's take it a step back, and I want to show you how I actually created this relationship. So yes, you're able to choose the relationship, and I can say add, and I can say neutral, relate to neutral client, and I can see the frequency, software, and the price per month. And if I go to the client workspace or the client list, it shows me the item 0. Notice I can't see the start or the date started. I can add another field here, and I can call it a revenue field. So let's call it, let's give it, for example, I can have a money field, and I can call it revenue from client. Okay, revenue from client. And I add the column. So let's just say I'm on neutral, I'm earning $5,000 or 5,000 Rand. Cloth person, I'm earning 10,000 Rand per month on the bookkeeping fee. And that's the type of stuff that I would like to see on this client. Now what happens is, because I added on this list, if I go to the subscription field, whoever's in this list over here and doing the billing, they won't get to see that part because I didn't select it. And that's how relationships work, helping you keep some parts of the information private, whilst also giving information to allow different staff members to see specific items they need to see. Now, how did I create this? I'm going to start over by creating it from scratch, just to show you how I related all the items from the client list to the subscription list. And the way I did that, I'm first going to undo what I did, and then I'll show you how I did it after that. Okay, so I'm going to take out this and I'm going to delete it. Okay, delete. So I deleted the relationship. Note, because I deleted the relationship, I didn't actually delete the data that is coming from the relationship, if that makes sense. The actual data, which is the source data called on the client list, it is still there. Now, how do I do this? I go to my monthly subscription, and I'll click in any task. Okay, there's the task. All right. And then what I'll say is relationship. Can you see here relationship? I will say add relationship. And what am I adding? I'm going to create a relationship. So the relationship I'm going to do is I'm going to create relationship, and I'm going to name it something. So this relationship name, I will call it client detail. And then I can say from client detail, what would I like to relate to this specific list? Now I would like to list or choose only from the client list. So I'm not going to choose anywhere from workspace. I'm going to choose from a specific list. And then it'll prompt me to what list would I like to choose. So the list I like to choose, I know it's in my space called contacts. I know it's in my folder called my client details. And I'm using this list called dummy clients. And I'll say create. But before I click on create, I want some of the items to roll up and viewed on this list. So I'm going to click on that tick box over there, and I'm going to say, please show me the frequency. So I would like to know the frequency of how often this client should be billed. I'd also like to see the subscription that they're paying per month. So that's the revenue or the subscription, which is the per month subscription, not the revenue of the total revenue I'm getting from the client, just the subscription. So that's the per month subscription. And then I'd like also to view the products that this client is purchasing. So revenue from client. No, product, that's the product. And then I can give it a name. So then I can say billing frequency. I can call this subscription, monthly subscription. So I can rename this on how it looks on the new list. Monthly fee. And then I can call it software. And I'll say create. Now what this does is it allows then the user in this list to select data that's related to this actual task. So I'm going to add the plus. We're not seeing the relationship, so I'm going to open up the relationship field to be viewed. So that's client details, that's the relationship field, and it's been seen with that new icon with these two arrows. That shows it's a relationship. And now I'll relate it. So the way I relate the data would be cloth person. So I'll click on client, click on add, and then I'll choose from this list the relevant customer. There, the cloth person. Done. And immediately when I choose it, it will give me the 3 items that is rolled up, which is the billing frequency, the monthly fee, and the subscription that they taken out. So on race car makers, the same thing. I'll click on the detail, I'll click on add. Now sometimes you'll think, but I don't understand, I don't see add on my ClickUp. You'll have to hover over the actual block and then the details will come up. So take note of that. Sometimes ClickUp people get confused. It's a good feature, I believe, because it makes it easier to read everything. And only when you need to actually click on something, it will then show. So I'm going to choose race car makers. And once again, it shows annual, the monthly fee, and then the software subscription. Perfect. Thank you. Something I like to end off with is always awkward ending off my videos because I find that I've given so much information, and I always say with the vetted consultant, you are able to build your workspace with confidence.